Okay, so we are officially live and streaming. This is Urban Armed. I'm about to bring on a Bombadero and Shell Shock. Let me get them in here. So we're going to be talking about gun trusts, asset protection trusts, as well as sorry, hang on one second. I'm going to try to get these guys back in here. Okay. Invite. Okay, so while they're waiting for them to come in, I go ahead and just kind of give a little bit of update. So essentially, we've been getting a lot of questions. We, as in me, my brother, El Bombadero, aka Gun Expert on YouTube, his YouTube channel, about NFA trusts, or I'm sorry, gun trusts, as specifically for accepting NFA items. All right, so we got Shell Shock. Are you there? What's up, brother?
Right here.
Are you there?
I'm right here.
All right, so hopefully
your favorite gun.
Ooh. Is that an SBR Chris Vector?
Yes, sir. Used to have this dildo on it.
Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that. Let's get that out of here.
No, you don't need that shit.
Make sure I can. Okay. Let's see. Get the link. I'm trying to get
El Bombadero.
El Bombadero. Where are you? I know. What's
go all professional with the lighting and shit.
Well, I use that primarily for my vaping video reviews.
Oh, cool.
Of course, I'm always doing my gun videos from the garage in the dark with my beer.
I need to put up your vaping channel. Does it give you shit?
Yeah, man. It's going pretty well so far. Can't complain.
I've been on the website a few times, but
yeah. You like it?
Yeah, it looks cool.
Okay.
Professional.
He said for some reason he's not getting the link. So let me email it to him one more time. Okay.
We're live, right?
We are actually live, so we don't have any viewers at the moment, but I know that some people are waiting for the link, so I think it sends out the email once I go live. And
yeah.
Let me actually just go ahead and post it on. I'll give it to Travis. Had texted me asking for it, so should. I think anyone that's subscribed, it goes out to them. And
so it's not showing you live anywhere. It's not showing.
Oh, really? It's showing live in the Google broadcast, and I know it's.
Like, I went to my subscription list, and you're not there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
If I'm pulling it up on YouTube right now, and it is live.
It is?
Yeah.
How the fuck it's not pulling? Like, it's not showing you. Alright, let's figure out.
I don't know. I can text it to you, though, if you want to see it.
Yeah. Well, I can go to my subscription.
Like, if you go to my YouTube channel, it shows up there.
I'm trying to look it up right now. You know, I used to love, like, very, like 3 years ago, YouTube. Remember that shit? How easy was it? You got it.
Hey!
Sorry, it wasn't showing up in the notifications. I had to go look for it. So
So
Okay. Okay.
cool. It's cool.
All right, so we are all here. I know it's recording. It's on my channel. I know we don't have any viewers. People are already IMing me and texting me for the link, so I'm trying to get it out to everybody.
Tell them to go suck their dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, while nobody's on.
you suck.
You suck dicks.
You know.
Well, even I bet you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
You sick bastards. I love it. So, anywho, let me.
Okay, so
I'll just go ahead and start off. I know we're a few minutes into this for people that are going to watching it pre-recorded on the channel. So we have El Bombardero, Shell Shock from Shell Shock Armory, and myself, Urban Arms. And we are basically doing this Google Hangout. I'm trying to be all official right now because in just a minute I'm about to open this 40 up. So we're basically hosting this Google Hangout chat for a resource for those that are curious about trusts, whether it be asset protection, gun trust, etc., an LLC trust, which Shell Shock has a lot of more in-depth information, as well as just the whole overall trust and being an FFL, and just kind of like why you need it, why you may or may not need it, what is it, how much does it probably cost you, anywhere from a range, and then as well as what does the trust do for you, and why the rush? Why the rush to get the trust done and get your NFA items done? What is 41P? What does that ruling mean? And all that fun stuff. So for those that are watching, El Bombardero, I'll have all the links posted later on. I'll edit the description to have links to both El Bombardero's channel, which is Gun Expert, and also Shell Shock, which is Shell Shock Armory. But I guess we'll go ahead and just kind of get started. Basically, the three of us have been posting videos as of recent about short barrel rifles, and I'm going to go ahead and say it right now in the beginning of this video. We're probably not going to go into any of the aspects of the SIG brace or any of that bullshit. That's a totally separate issue. We're going to stick to actual NFA items, tax stamps, etc. So with short barrel rifles and suppressors and that kind of thing, whether you're building your own, doing a Form 1, or buying a pre-made Form 4, how to file those, whether it's e-file, regular file, have your, and what are the prerequisites. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, El Bombardero, and maybe then we'll just bounce back and forth between the two of you. Shell Shock, just jump in whenever. I'll kind of play the questionnaire, because I'm also reading questions that people have been posting on the video I did earlier today, which is basically just some general questions. But let's start with why one would want to do a trust, whether it's asset protection or just a straight gun trust, versus just going and buying a suppressor from an FFL or a dealer and letting them file the paperwork and so on and so forth. Like, why would you want to do a trust versus individual? So we go to you guys.
Okay, so the trust, the short answer is it makes everything easier. It makes filing for any NFA item a lot easier. It starts by bypassing the requirement for the local law enforcement signature, which, even though you may live in a state where these items are legal, your local sheriff's department may not approve of you having them. So it becomes an issue of not even being able to get the item without that approval. So the gun trust helps you get past that barrier. Also bypasses the need for the bullshit of getting fingerprinted, passport photo, background check, all that stuff. And I'm not saying you want to get past the background check because you're a criminal. That's your own business, I guess. It just negates the need for any of that stuff. So filing a trust, which is a legal document that creates a legal entity that is not a person, and that legal entity can own these items. And the reason why we say a gun trust is because you want one that's specifically written for these items, for NFA items. How much do you want to spend? Well, how much is it worth to you, and what are you trying to do with it? A lot of people will tell you that you can go on websites like LegalZoom, or there's a handful of websites out there, $99 gun trust, whatever.com. As you know, Josh, working for a law office, and as I know from experience, you get what you pay for when it comes to legal preparation, legal advice. A lot of these cheap trusts will pass muster with the NFA branch, the ATF. You will be able to file, and you will be able to get your NFA item with the gun trust. Some of them no, and I couldn't tell you off from my experience which ones are which. I would suggest going somewhere that has sort of a reputation, maybe like AR15.com has the forum there has a lot of people who have done a lot of different things, and they can recommend who to use and who works and who doesn't. Personally, I went for the full-on legal, like I had a lawyer write it up for me, and this is a trust document, so you're going to get charged what it costs to form a trust, which typically from a lawyer is going to be anywhere from $600–700 all the way up to $2,000 to $3,000, depending on what you're asking for. The benefits of going that route: it is asset protection. It's built in that these items will pass to your descendants or whoever you write into your trust, as opposed to something that's written poorly that may not stand up to an estate issue when you die or something happens to you. And one of the benefits of doing it this way is you can write more people into the trust if you want to. That gets a little bit more complicated. We talk about that later. But the gun trust from a lawyer usually has built into it some consultation with the lawyer, so you can go over some of these issues. If you have questions later on, they'll take your questions without charging you massive fees. So it kind of comes down to what you can afford and what you're trying to accomplish. Are you just trying to get a short barrel rifle and you're just trying to avoid all the other nonsense? Then yeah, maybe your $100 gun trust will do the trick. If you're trying to actually protect these investments, which is what, to me, these are investments, then maybe fork out the money to actually do what you are intending to do. So that's kind of my basic view about gun trusts.
So going back to, because I know a lot of people, we have a lot of questions about the trusts. There's like 13 people watching. I'm trying to, Meal Team is actually IMing me to figure out how to update the subscription or the description information in the link, so I'm trying to figure that out as we go. And also see if I can open up the chat for questions, people to type questions to us. But so let's talk about the cost and the do-it-yourself kind of $99 trust route versus hiring a lawyer. And just for of the trust, what you get what you pay for. I can definitely speak to that, but what is it that you really get when you go with the and we don't know because I haven't done the $99. Obviously, you're my brother. We're in the same gun trust, right? But obviously, what do you kind of get for the $99? And when you're talking about using a resource to find a good lawyer who first understands what you're trying to do with NFA items and what have you, to write the trust and in a way that it will be accepted by the ATF and not rejected, you're talking about could range anywhere from with a lawyer from about $700 to $2,000 in that price range, versus the $99 option. I know a lot of people are cost conscious, but is this an area where you don't necessarily, you're not trying to go for the cheapest route, right? What are you looking for?
I recently bought a gun safe, and I was coming down to the decision of what to buy, and ultimately it was, are you taking this decision to buy this safe seriously, or are you just like stroking yourself thinking like, oh, I got this cool Field & Stream gun safe? You are going to get what you pay for. If you pay for the cheapest gun trust you can get, that's what you're going to get. And so that's fine if that's good enough for you. But when you're talking about NFA stuff and possibly felony charges for screwing it up, or possibly wasting your time and your money by getting a trust that doesn't pass the NFA standards, the ATF standards, and then you're back to square one. You've just blown $100 and several weeks of your time. You know, it is a lot of money. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. And I've been fortunate enough right now to be in a position to pay for this stuff. So that is the consideration. But I will say that you don't want to go half-assed with this stuff because you're going to get a half-assed result. That's just my opinion. I don't know, Shell Shock, if you have any experience with any of the cheap trusts, if you can speak to it at all.
And not really. When I was trying to do the whole thing, I contacted you. I talked with Josh. I looked at your trust, and I mean, I've talked with a lot of people that went the $99 route or went through somebody that has wrote them whatever trust is. The problem is, even though they can still pass through the ATF and get your short barrel rifle and all that, but is it really going to protect it, and is it really going to transfer it to your whoever you want to leave those to? That becomes the biggest problem. So yeah, you can get, and I believe like half the time really the ATF doesn't look through the forms, and if there is a trust there, yes, they take it, or an LLC, and this is kind of the route that I went, and I can speak more into towards the business entity side of things. But half the time you don't look at it. As long as you have your form is filled correctly, more than likely everything is going to go through. But at the end, if you get arrested with one, like the guy that got arrested in Texas ended up paying like $45,000 to prove that he is legally the owner of this and this and that. But again, it's you get what you pay for. And will it pass court? Will it go through this and this and that? I'm not sure. Now with all the new, with the law that they're proposing since what was it, September 2013?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they're probably going to tighten everything, looking into all that details. But we'll talk about this in a little bit. But yeah, I can.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to touch on the protection aspect of it, because I think a lot of people are thinking to themselves, well, do I really need a gun trust then if it's just so I can get a short barrel rifle or a suppressor or something like a short barrel shotgun or something like that, or any other weapon classification, whatever it is that you want to get? What does the gun trust do for me other than making it quote unquote easier? Is the protection aspect. So, for instance, if I were to pass away and I didn't have a trust, right? The NFA weapons that I have would essentially be confiscated unless a family member was willing to go through the process themselves, going through the background checks and all that kind of stuff, filing the forms and the appropriate paperwork. It'd probably be more hassle than it's worth for them, which means that the weapons would essentially just be taken away. If you have a trust and you have other people in the trust, sons, brothers, parents, whatever, sisters, then they state I think that's just the thing. The trust is an entity of itself, so you don't actually, though they may be in your possession, they don't technically belong to you. They belong to the trust. So if something were to happen to me,
yeah, and not just death, divorce proceedings, getting sued, bankruptcy, all these things, putting assets into a trust protects these assets from your own financial woes, whatever they might be. If you have some psycho ex-wife coming after you, you can put everything in the trust, not just the NFA stuff. You can put all your, all your firearms into this trust, and they belong to the trust now. If somebody comes after you financially, you don't own any of this stuff. The trust owns it, which is a very interesting legal instrument when you think about it that way. So it does a lot more than just allow you to get an NFA item. It can do a lot more if it's written appropriately. So, one thing you asked earlier and I didn't answer, I found the lawyer that I use through guntrustlawyers.com. Guntrustlawyers.com, they're experts on all the NFA stuff. That's where I've gotten a lot of my information. And they basically just have a network of lawyers that they will recommend that in your area to do your trust. So
Okay, guntrustlawyer.com. So I'll put that in the description when we're done with the video, so people want to go look it up. Basically, would that allow you to find a lawyer in your area that you could
That
talk to?
specializes. It's not just that knows how to write a trust, but specializes in NFA trusts.
Okay, and that's the area where you're going to probably spend a little bit more money than you would off the 99guntrustlawyer.com site.
Legal Zoom, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we understand that you can do a trust. There might be people out there who are watching or come across this later on that have their own business. So what I have a question for you, Shellshock, is if you have your own company, it being an LLC, even if it's not a gun company, like you're not a FFL, but you're just let's say you have your own pressure washing business or your own roofing company and you have an LLC, is that a viable option to go, is to set up a trust for your LLC, or do you want to set something up completely independent, and what do you have to do in order to do that? Or is there any benefit to it if you're not planning to do a gun business or something?
Yeah, I mean, you can have any business or you can file for a business. So kind of same with the asset protection, LLC or a corporation or S corp or all that. Your own entities, so your own financials are separate than the actual company itself. So when it comes to a business entity, you don't need to file for a trust. You don't even need to have any paperwork. All you need is a tax ID number. You need the business documents from your Secretary of State. So normally an LLC will cost you $150 to set up, and then you can just go same route as the trust. You don't have to do your fingerprints. You don't have to do your photos. It's the business itself owns the firearms. Now, the benefit from an LLC or a business versus a trust, at least the way this is the route that I went. On the trust, you're going to have to name whoever people in the trust, who's the trustee, who's the people that will be the co-trustee, or the people that will end up with the items itself, if any. And that applies to either gun trust or revocable trust any trust normally. On the business end, the business itself owns the gun. So let's say tomorrow something happens to me, my wife owns the business, the guns belongs to her at this point. Or if I have two partners, all three of us can't own the guns. So whoever has the guns with him, or the firearms, or the suppressors, whatever the case might be, they are part of that business. Later on, and this is kind of debatable, but as far as what I've seen, it's been working that way. Later on, let's say I sell the business, or I want to sell all these firearms, I can sell the whole business to, let's say, you. Now you own all these short barrel rifles or suppressors. You don't have to file for tax stamps because the business itself owns them. So it saves you the hassle of changing hands. Of course, you want to make sure it's legally changing hands and all that, your documentation checked, but you don't have to go through, Form 4s and transferring in $200 each. Now, the problem with an LLC or a business is you need to maintain the business active with your Secretary of State. So it depends on the type of business. You have to make sure you continue doing your filing, and I believe for an LLC, every 2 or 3 years you have to just renew it. Doesn't cost you anything, only the initial cost, and then you have to make sure you're filing taxes. Otherwise, of course, it's a misuse of a corporation or a business, and IRS will do them.
Right, it could be considered like a front or something like that for something else, and can't be claiming a loss for too many years in a row, right? I think after 3 or 4 years, if you're still claiming losses.
Fortunately, I have a gun business, so I can trust, and I did claim a loss. So, well, no, not really. It's a wash this year. First year was a loss. This year is a wash. So, okay.
So most people would probably be looking at going the trust route if they don't want to keep up with a business, an LLC, especially with the tax implications and that kind of thing. But there are multiple routes, right? You can do a trust. You can put more than the guns themselves in the trust. You could put property.
You can put more than the guns in the trust, but the lawyer who did mine strongly recommended not putting anything but guns or NFA weapons items in the trust. He said it can get very messy if you do that. He said this trust is for your gun, so that's what you use it for. He said it's possible, but it's really not a good idea. So I don't remember exactly why, but that was his strong recommendation.
Okay. So let's, I think we've covered a pretty good deal about the trusts, where people can go. It sounds like from Shell Shock, even if you go the $99 route, chances are you'll probably be okay. It's just a matter of, is the trust written really well, not just so you can get your NFA items approved by the ATF, but is it written in such a way that makes sure that you're really protected, and if something happens to you or something, that they are designated. You know, it's kind of like, yeah, they may get you in to get the items, they may get your approval, but you know, making sure that it's written in such a way that it protects not just you, but the assets as well as anybody else who's in the trust. So I guess we can kind of segue from the gun trust aspect. And I say gun trust, it's really a trust, but it's specifically for guns. But what is the process that people will use for filing when they're purchasing a SBR or filing for an SBR? Maybe they bought their own lower and they want to do a Form 1. What is the process like as compared to filing without a trust?
Well, the primary thing is it's faster. Because there's no background check, and because I don't know this for sure, but I think because the examiners have less basically work to do when it comes to filing under a business name or a trust. With a business name, an LLC, I think all they have to do is verify the tax ID number, verify it's in good standing, and then boom, approved. With the trust, you send in your trust paperwork. You send in a copy of your trust, not the whole thing, but basically like the introduction and the proof of certification and all that. You send that in with your Form 1 or your Form 4, and they verify that it's legit and give you the stamp, and it's faster. And you can check that on silencershop.com. You can check that on NFAtracker.com. All these places that keep track of this stuff. Form 1s and Form 4s go faster with trusts and with LLCs than they do with individual filings. So that's the first thing. The second thing is Form 1s, which is to manufacture an NFA item, whether that's you're making your own suppressor, you're making your own short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, any other weapon. You can do those online right now. You can do them through the e-file system, and in my experience, I've had 4 items, and they were all done on e-file. The last 3 that I did, they all took 5 weeks, as opposed to several months for filing paper. So that's a big plus. Doing it online, doing the e-file, you just have to go slow, and you have to remember to hit the save button all the time, because you'll lose your work and it's really frustrating. But Form 4s and Form 3s, which Form 3 is the transfer from one dealer to another dealer. So say you order your NFA weapon online and it's got to come to a local dealer, the dealer who sends it has to do a Form 3 to send it from him to your dealer. And that process is taking 6 to 8 weeks consistently. And there is no e-file for that right now. So if you're considering buying an NFA item, you have to factor that in if you're not going to buy it locally. You have to factor that 6 to 8 weeks time in. And then your Form 4, which is not available on e-file right now. With a trust, I just finished mine. I mailed my paperwork on September 29th, and I received my tax stamps in 3 months and 3 weeks to the day. So just under 4 months. From what I understand, that processing time is slowly coming down. They hired a bunch more examiners, and they're getting them trained, and they are making progress on their backlog. So it is getting shorter at this time. we'll talk about the 41P thing later, but at this time, the times are getting shorter as they get further into that backlog. So, and the Form 4 is just a paper form. You fill it out, you attach your trust paperwork, your LLC paperwork, or if you're filing as an individual, you would attach your law enforcement signature, your photo, your passport photo, your background, or your fingerprints, and all that stuff. So that's kind of a quick rundown of how it works as far as filing for those forms.
Okay.
I don't know if Shell Shock has anything to add.
For the LLC or business, you just need to actually have your file and documents and attach it. You also need to do the certification that you're a U.S. citizen, so just that one sheet and sign it.
Yeah, you do that with a trust too, I think.
Yep, anybody with the business will just fill it with their information, their social security number, whatever the case might be, and then you're just certifying that you're a U.S. citizen. No, I totally agree with the time frames. I think I filed the last couple months here 5 or 6 different items, and it took between 28 days. The longest took me 40 days to get them on Form 1s and e-file. I've seen Form 4s or Form 1s in a paper format. It's taken roughly about 6 months now. Form 4s, again, e-filing is, I don't think 4 is e-filed now. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the last email I got from the ATF said that they expect, or they hope, I think they said, that Form 3s and Form 4s will be available late 2015.
I definitely say if you're gonna have a short barrel rifle or a suppressor or something like that, if you can manufacture your own, go that route. It's gonna be a lot faster. If you go somewhere and have them like here, this right. I built this. I was gonna have Rifle Dynamic build it, and then they have to do Form 1. Well, they have to do 2, which takes 1 day. Then they're going to have to do the 3, the 4, and then you have to file, I think there's another form that they have to do, which is counted, it's going to take you about 9 months, but if you do your own and e-file, it's going to take you about 30 days.
Yeah.
So that's going to, what's that?
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
So that's pretty much, if you can get it yourself, do it, that's absolutely going to be the fastest way. If you do a Form 4, it's going to pretty much double the time, maybe longer, about 3 to 4 months. That's, yeah, I go to NFA.com or NFA Tracker. That's how I look at my forms and make sure that it's within tracking. But other than that, nothing. I mean, online or filing with e-forms, you're going to have to be very careful. Know your what to fill and what's not, and if you need any help, you can actually contact them. They'll walk you through it. I've had two forms get declined or disapproved because of me just too much ADD. And we'll cover what errors that I made.
One question I had for both of you guys is the video I posted earlier today about this live hangout. People were asking questions. One of the questions was by Neutered 10mm.
I know what it.
Yeah, and I'm just asking for the sake of everybody else, is he said, and it was not necessarily a question, but he was just kind of stating it, was that they allow multiple line item entries on the form, and they denied his form. What advice is there for filing multiple items? Is it to do them as multiple separate entries or multiple items on a single filing?
I had a denial for the same reason. So what they do is they allow you to add all these different items. The whole item list was designed for law enforcement and all that because they're all tax exempt. So they don't have to pay anything at the end. When you do multiple line items, you end up paying for just one item, even though the form at this point will show you the first rifle or suppressor or whatever that you entered on that form is going to show only on that form, but after the 40 days they'll come and decline it, and the reason for declining it is multiple items on that. So you're always going to have to file for a different for each item, because at the end it doesn't allow you to check more than one. And if they approve it, technically they're approving all of the items that you put in there for one tax stamp.
Yep, exactly.
So this is where Meal Team would probably be shouting because it's all about the money, which he's right. Make sure they get their $200.
I will just say that the $200 tax stamp was instituted with the NFA Act back in, what, 1934? $200 at that time, fortune. That fee has not changed in 80 years. So, yes, they are making money. No, they are not making a lot of money doing this. If you think how much time an examiner takes to process one of these forms and how much they probably get paid an hour, they're probably losing money as far as the NFA branch is concerned.
I can tell you for a fact, with the new law, the 41P, they're anticipating the whole reason for this, that they're gonna make about $9.5 million. It's gonna cost them to process it 1 point something. They're gonna net about $8.8 million. That's what they're anticipating. They're anticipating about 4,700 companies or businesses or trusts or entities to be filing every year. That's what their anticipation is. I don't know if they have any other things in their bag that will result to this, but that's what they have. On the actual bill itself, when you read it, I think it's on page 20 or something. It kind of breaks down the numbers. But it's if you take the 4,077, time it by 200, it comes out to roughly, I don't know how many millions. And then their cost, they said their cost is going to be 1.8 million roughly to process all these stuff. And again, they're anticipating, yes, there's the cost to the FBI background, there's the cost for this and this, but they're anticipating also there's places that you're going to have to go, you're going to have to pay for the cards for your fingerprints and all that. But we can talk more through the bill.
Well, I guess I mean that's a pretty good segue into. We've kind of talked about like what a trust does for you. You could set up a trust with a lawyer. You can also set up through an LLC. Maybe at this point we can segue over to why, not just why you'd want to do it for asset protection, right? In the event something happens to you, a crazy divorce, or you die. I mean, heaven forbid you pass away or something, but your weapons can still stay in the family, so to speak. Is to why are we doing this now? What is the rush? And obviously I know the answer to this. I'm just kind of asking so that you guys can...
Why have I filed for 11 stamps in the last 12 months?
Right, exactly. That's it, right? So me, 4, you, what, 8? Or
whatever, yeah, 7.
So between the, yeah. So, why is it that it's January 2015, right? We jumped on this last year. Well, I should really say, El Bombadero, you jumped on this last year. And I just got to go along for the ride because we're related. But, why is this such a big deal now? Let's talk about what 41P is, and which is basically a ruling change that the ATF, because, I mean, these laws aren't, like, voted on. They're done through bureaucratic channels. They pretty much can change stuff, right? And so how does that affect people now, and what does that mean going forward if you want to file, say, after May, or even before May, you may not even make it in and get grandfathered in, but what's the big deal?
Well, after I'll say what I know, and then I'll let Shell Shock fill in where I screw it up. After Sandy Hook, there was a lot of pressure to change gun laws, and one of the things that Obama did was mandate that the ATF adjust this rule that made exceptions for gun trusts and LLCs when it came to filing for a tax stamp. And so what the 41P ruling essentially does is it makes you do all the things you would have to do as an individual if you're using a trust. You got to get fingerprinted, you got to get your passport photo, and most importantly, in my opinion, you got to go get the sheriff's local sheriff's signature. All of that makes it much harder to use a trust, especially if you have more than one person in the trust. If you have more than one person in the trust, you got to do this for all the people in the trust. So there's that issue to deal with. Now, the ATF was supposed to make this ruling last year, but they got so many comments in the comment period that they had to delay it because they need to respond to each comment individually. Apparently, that's what I've read. I haven't gotten my response from the ATF yet on my comment, but I don't know whether I should expect one or not. So in November, I believe it was, of 2014, they pushed the date of the ruling to May, saying that we could expect a ruling in May on this issue. Now they're being vague about it, saying they're not saying right now whether or not they're going to go ahead with it, but all signs point to yes, that they're going to go ahead with this. I read this on American Silencer Association's website. We'll have that link in the description. So it appears that they're going to go with this. Now, they may delay again in May. They may get there and say, no, we still haven't done what we need to do, and they may delay again. Or they may go ahead with the ruling. In the past, when the NFA has made these types of adjustments, there's usually a grace period, and they've usually grandfathered in previous things ahead of time, so that people who've already done the process can maintain what they've done, and then anything new happening after the ruling is subject to the new rules. There's no guarantee with the NFA about what they'll do. So that's why I've been rushing. And in my point of view, if you have not started this process yet, and you want to do it, you've got to start yesterday. You have got to get on this and do it quick, because it takes time to form the trust, it takes time to form the LLC, and it takes time to start building these items and or filing the tax stamps for these items. So that's my interpretation. I'll let Shellshock, correct me where I messed up.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it was September 2013, I guess, when they came out with the whole thought process of doing that. There are a couple of things that they're saying. They're trying to make it easier. Apparently, that's how they presented it. Trying to make it easier. We are passing a law that when you go to the CLEO or whatever, your chief law enforcement officer, they will actually sign it and no question asked. Now, if we back up a little, the whole idea because the whole idea about the chief law enforcement officer came when there is no NICS, there is no background checks, there is nothing electronic. So you have to go to your chief law enforcement officer or your sheriff, and they will vouch for you. Yes, he's good, he's in good standing, like old school kind of things. When you go for a job, you're gonna have two people give you, recommendation, or when you go apply for a college and two alumni. But now you could go freaking, like when we do background checks for customers when they come pick up a gun, the 4473, it's just 2 seconds and it's up there. So I'm not sure why, but now they're saying, you know what, we're gonna have the sheriff or the chief law enforcement officer approve it, but we're gonna make sure that everybody is legal. And until this day, they haven't decided, and I think that's part of the delay, is are they going to have every person that owns the business or every person on the trust going to go through the background check, or is just one representative? And this is kind of where the debate is. They're saying right now, even though we provide for the LLCs, we provide the documentation, going forward, if the bill goes through, they're going to need people to come in with all the documents, all the partners, everybody's name, and then Social Security certification. Everybody needs the background check. And in some cases, they're saying we'll just have one representative be the responsible person for the trust or the LLC, and they have to go through that. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have really an answer, and they didn't have their answers ready, so they couldn't enforce it. But I'll second your thing here. If you're looking to do an SBR or buy a suppressor, if your state allows, our state doesn't, go ahead and do it right now. Like you guys did in the last few months, I think I did 6 stamps, and I'm hoping to do a couple more here, as many as actually I can, until whatever the rule comes in. I look at it as right now we can do it, and maybe at one point it'll end up like the old machine guns on registry, and we can't get anything done or something like that. So if we can do it now, it could be a huge investment, not just, you know, asset protection. No, that $500 lower or that $500 gun or $1,000 gun ends up to 50, 60,000. So will it happen? Not, I don't know, but I'd like to have my options.
Yeah, yeah, that was another thing too. Is I was, in my opinion, I was like, you know, in 1985, if you had the means to buy a machine gun and you knew that in 1986 that thing was going to go way up in value, would you do it? Now, this is not the same as that, but in my mind, it does have the potential to make all of this much more difficult and maybe, you know, in the long run, make this more of an investment. I'm not only using it for that, but that's on my mind as far as, you know, what I'm buying and why I'm buying it, why I'm choosing to spend my money right here, right now, instead of using it on other things.
So I also just want to touch on something real quick. Going back to the ATF ruling, is that let's say that you're wanting to do an SBR, you're wanting to do either build a suppressor yourself or buy a suppressor. If you don't have a trust right now, and you're thinking about doing this, the recommendation would be to try to get a trust set up like yesterday, and get it set up to protect, you know, the assets, protect you. One, to make it easier, but also there is kind of time is of the essence right now, meaning that if you're not actively working on getting this done and then using the trust to file for your Form 1 or your Form 4s, that the more time that goes, there's probably going to be a bum rush of people trying to get stuff filed before this ruling change takes place. And it's very possible that just because you're filing before May or whatever doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get approved before then, and that you won't have to go back through the normal channels of filing as an individual, even with a trust, meaning that you'll have to go get everyone who is in the trust, get a background check, you'll have to go get approval from your local law enforcement, right? So it is kind of a time thing, right? You want to be doing this.
With the Osprey that we just bought, the guy filed the Form 4 the day that I bought it. And if everything goes according to plan, that Form 4 will be approved in May. And that was last week that I did that. So already for that Form 4, you're looking at pushing you into May. So, you know, if this is important to you, you got to do it, especially if you're going to do a Form 4. You got to get on it. Did we lose Josh?
No.
No, I'm here. I was just reading. I'm reading the chat. I'm listening to you and reading the questions in the chat at the same time.
Right.
My shit froze up.
I gotta add something though. I know we said we're not going to talk about this, but considering with all braces out now, and you know, from the beginning I said this is not happening. It's not going to work. The letter said that you can't shoulder it, but whatever, to each his own, and people can argue the whole fact. But with all these braces being in the shitter right now, people spending $200 and just garbage, everybody's moving to file, or at least a lot of people looking into file.
Well, yeah, they got a taste of the action and they liked it.
Yeah, and now, like you guys said, the ATF or the NFA branch hired 9 more examiners, but with all this rush and people trying to get in there, you might run into delays at this point, not taking the 4 weeks or the 5 weeks. So if you can, or if you're looking to, go ahead and do it right now. Even if it doesn't take you the 4 weeks, or it takes 5 weeks, 6 weeks, you got it. And believe me, once you get one, you're going to get addicted like us here.
Oh, it's like tattoos, man. It's like tattoos and crack cocaine, man.
Absolutely.
All right, so I have 2 quick questions. One of them is actually more of a statement from Yield Team, which is basically, and he's right, that the ATF can inspect without a warrant your NFA firearms, which you know, is true. I mean, if you're at the gun range, and you know, Isaac, you know, you and I were talking about this earlier because I went to the range earlier today, and it's like someone else comes up, you can tell them like pound sand, but if the ATF shows up, you better be able to produce the stamps, the tax stamps.
Well, look, I look at, you know, people want to talk about like, oh, if you have an NFA item, they know where you are and they can come looking for you and everything. And I usually hear this from, and I don't mean any disrespect or any offense to anybody, but I usually hear this from people who are all over Facebook and or YouTube and whatever social media talking about how they're a gun owner. And if you don't think that there's some kind of contingency plan, if you're going worst case scenario, paranoid, they're coming to get us, if you don't think they already know who you are and where you are and possibly what you have, then you're fooling yourself. And I thought about that too. I'm like, I don't want the government to, you know, have the authority to come ask me where my shit is. But at the same time, I was like, dude, if that comes to that, we have bigger problems. We have much bigger problems, and I would like to enjoy these items in this way, you know. And we can talk about the NFA laws being unconstitutional and all that. That's great. But we're talking about people who are going this route, and this is the route that I chose to go. And how easy is it to buy a 9-inch upper for your rifle lower and strap it on when nobody's looking? Dude, it's super easy. You can go out in your backyard and enjoy your illegal SBR all you
Sure,
want.
and we're not saying don't do that. We're just saying don't post it on YouTube, right?
That's your thing, and I'm not
absolutely.
going to,
I was going back and forth with Brian McCowan. He's got a great channel, and it's kind of like, you're right, brother. Hey, you know, between you, land, and the sky, and God, right? I don't know. We're just kind of saying, you know, for protecting your assets, doing it. If you want to go to the range and enjoy your firearms, yes, the ATF can inspect. I do have one quick question I wanted to ask by TJ. He said, do all members of the trust have to fill out all forms and pay all of the fees, or additional members of the trust cost less? I know the answer to that, but I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just answer.
Well, no. The trust is the entity that owns the gun, so it doesn't matter who's in it. And the thing with the trust, and I don't know how it works with an LLC, I can write people as the settler, as the primary person of the trust. I can write in and write out whoever I want to at any time. I don't know how that changes with the 41P ruling. The trust, I don't file the trust anywhere. This is something I get asked a lot. Where do you file the trust? You don't file the trust. The trust is a legal document. It is a legal entity, but it's not like you go down to City Hall and say, here's the trust, put it on file, whatever. It exists by itself, but there's no, like, filing of it. So you can write people in or out. You can write property in or out. You can't write an NFA item out without transferring it to a legal owner. But there's no, like, you know, oh, there's 9 people, there's 9 fees. There's however many people I want in the trust at whatever time I want and whatever property I want to put in the trust. So that's kind of the brief answer of how that works. So I don't know about LLC.
Yeah, on an LLC, you're pretty much either having a buy-in agreement, or you have your minute meetings or whatever that says we added this person to the business, or we took this person out of the business. But it is what it is. So the LLC, again, itself has its own entity. On the LLC, it's filed. The Secretary of State doesn't have who owns what or who are the partners in a business. Usually you have your bylaws are what that can be a letterhead with the company, and it says so and so is a business owner. You can notarize it or not, as long as it's I guess you can do whatever you want with the business, but you need to make sure to be able to produce. So if I'm walking down the street with an NFA item, I need to be able to produce that I am one of these people. Now on the ATF can inspect, or the NFA can inspect at any time. But from what I got from the examiners, or at least the people that I spoke with in the technology branch, because I deal with the technology branch a lot on things that we do in the business itself, is you don't have to have the stamp with you. So people tell you have to have the stamp everywhere. Your engraving is your legal entity for the most part, but if they need you to provide it, you should be able to produce it. Now, when we file for Form 1, you really get an email. So I have all the emails on a folder on my phone. I can actually pull the stamps, and that's pretty much that.
I went ahead and just printed it out. I mean, it's engraved on the lower receiver, but I went ahead and printed it out for the SBR, one for the suppressor.
I keep them inside the grips So usually I use the mag pull and I put them inside in a sleeve of plastic sleeve. Just put them in there. So everything needs. We're good to go.
I literally have one in my back pocket because I was at the range today.
Yeah,
and
so I just want to mention real quick what Shell Shock said when he said engraved. Any Form 1 item you have needs to be engraved to specific specifications as you, whether you the individual, you the trust, or you the LLC, as the manufacturer of that item, needs to be engraved. And I got my my engraving on the receiver. Shell Shock is showing the picture right now. I got all my stuff engraved on the receiver. Usually, it's going to be some kind of a gunsmith who does this. Sometimes jewelry people can do this. Trophy people can do this. Just be sure that if it is already registered, that whoever is doing it needs to be a Class 3 dealer, or you need to be with them while they do it. So, oh my God, that is so sexy.
I know.
Is that an NFA? Is that an M92?
Yeah,
oh, we got to talk later, man. We have got to talk.
That's why I pulled all the AKs to kind of show you. I know
it's happening.
This is the M92 kit that I built, so it's not a PAP.
You can put an underfolder on the M92?
This is an actual M92 that I built. So it's not a PAP or
okay. Yeah, we got some things to talk about, for sure.
Here's the newest one.
Oh.
The PDW is going on here. It's like I put it right next to it and picture it.
Yeah.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be the titty cream, dude.
So just getting back to what the NFA has the authority to do, yeah, they kind of have a lot of authority. But try to find people who've actually had an issue with this, And it's going to be hard to find people. The NFA is not knocking on doors. The ATF's not knocking on doors asking to see your weapons. I have a good friend of mine who talked me into the whole NFA thing in the first place, and he is about as anti-government, anti-law enforcement as you can get. And he was like, dude, don't even worry about it. That's not really an issue. So, yes, if the government goes to shit and people start knocking on doors, you are going to be on a list. You have this many NFA items, blah, blah, blah. Like, my line is always this. If it comes to that, we got much bigger problems than your stupid little SBR. So that's my...
And if it comes to that, you're not going to give a shit.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
I don't know what you're talking about. That belongs to the trust.
All of the Poly 80 SBRs that you have buried in your ammo cans in the backyard, it's time to dig them up.
Yeah. Let me say something real quick before I forget. Somebody on your video asked what it takes to take an NFA item across state lines. You have to fill out a form. Maybe Shell Shock remembers the number of the form, 5320.2 or something like that. You can look it up. It's a form that states what you're doing with the item. Are you taking it across state lines permanently? Are you taking it across for a range of dates? How are you taking it? Who's going to be in possession of it during that time? I filled out one of those. I got it back. It took about 3 or 4 weeks, and it was for a permanent address change, and it went really smoothly. That's what you have to do to take a short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, or any other weapon across state lines. As far as I understand it, you do not need to do that to take a suppressor across state lines. You just have to make sure it's legal in the state you're taking it to. Correct. I don't know if Shell Shock's got any input on that.
No, I totally agree. I haven't filed the form. I know the form is taken anywhere from 21 days plus, but you have to file it. Otherwise, if you go across state line, you will be facing federal charges and a commerce charge. It's a pretty much, I think it's...
Well, and that's the other thing, too, is talking about, violations of these laws. This is not like small stuff. I kind of jokingly said to someone at the office the other day, it was like, I'd rather be pulled over with a gram of coke in my car than an SBR in my trunk that's not supposed to be there, or a suppressor that I'm not supposed to have.
25 years and $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's very serious. Yeah.
it's very, very serious. I mean, it's you don't. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not telling people how to live their lives. I'm all about liberty and freedom. Hey, if I'm not hurting anybody, what I'm saying is just be smart, right, about everything that you do. If and try to and do the right thing. Be legal. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. About everything that you're going to do. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that because let's be honest. This whole thing, this conversation, and I'm not really meaning this whole live chat to go political at all. That's not where I'm going. I'm just saying that it's people like us and people who are watching that are trying to stay within the confines of the law and trying to say, look, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want my family to be in jeopardy because I did something stupid. I'm trying to do what's right. But the reality is that these rules and these laws don't prevent crime. Okay. It's just a control factor. It's a money factor. It's really a control factor. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like you kind of have to know which battles you want to pick, and these aren't battles that I'm willing to pick, at least not publicly, locally on the internet, to say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and build SBRs, and who gives a fuck? Maybe I think that, but I'm not going to say that. But what I'm saying is, and the people who would think that, I feel you. We're like-minded in that. I mean, this is all stupid bullshit. But if you want these items, you want them legally, and you want to protect them, especially in the event of your death or something like bad divorce or whatever, this is the route to go. And that, and also it's a faster route to go. It's just that there is an essence of time here, which is kind of what sparked this whole conversation and getting this video up.
Josh and I both were getting a lot of questions like, wait, so I should get a trust? How does that work? How do I do it? And so this whole thing was just designed to answer those questions as best we possibly could, especially with Shell Shock's experience as an LLC. Look, personally, out of pocket between Urban Armed and I, we forked over $3,000 just for fees and the gun trust. I understand that is bullshit. I do understand that. However, this is not a battle I'm going to fight. If you want to fight it, great. Okay? But if you want to go the NFA route, and if you want to go with the gun trust or the LLC, or even as an individual, these are all things you need to know before you get started or while you're in the process. And if you want to go gung-ho and like, I'm a sovereign citizen and you can't tell me what to do, that's great. I hope you don't end up on the news. Do your own thing. I'm very happy for you, and I believe in you. But that's not what I'm doing right here. So.
Right. No, I think what I guess what I'm trying to say is like we all have the same feeling of going like, this is fucking bullshit, right? You're filling out these forms and you're like, this is fucking bullshit. I get it. And there's a lot of things that you have to choose for every man for himself, and no judgment. But for the people that are interested, the trust is, in our opinion, or at least my opinion, the best route to go. Doing it quickly and getting your forms filed, as fast as possible is going to be in your best interest for expediting the process and also simplifying the process. Beyond that, what you do with your oil filter is totally up to you, and I'm not judging you whatsoever. I'm just saying.
You're gonna register
your solvent trap adapter, right? I love solvent trap adapters personally. That's not what this video is about, but I understand where you guys are coming from out there who are watching this going, this is fucking bullshit. But, because it will happen. It will happen.
Yeah, you turn to be a Democrat and vote until after you die. Gosh.
I am actually a registered libertarian, but thank you for that. Not that really means shit anyways. I'm just kind of...
They're all the same.
So is there any other aspects? I have the live chat open. We have 15 people watching, and in the chat.
Oh, can I say, please sub my channel and please sub Shock's channel?
Yes. So, for those who are watching, I think Gun Expert, GUNXPRT, you are at 954 subs. You're trying to hit a K, 1,000.
I'm trying to hit 1,000. I've been at 950 forever.
I just want to keep subbing you. Every person that subs you, you get like 5 unsubs because
pretty much.
I'm calling people bitches and faggots and all that kind of stuff, which is funny. I think it's hilarious. I think people get butt hurt too easily. Also, Shell Shock Armory. Subscribe to Shell Shock Armory. He does some amazing videos, AKs, ARs, SBRs, all that fun stuff. But I think this may be a kind of a continuation to this, maybe an ongoing conversation, because I'm sure this may even spark more questions. This whole video is intended to answer a lot of questions or point people to as a resource with links in the descriptions, but I think it may actually just spawn more questions, which is totally cool. But you know, there may be a continuation of this at some point, because there's a lot. Travis, DJ Outline One's like, unsub. Who the fuck is an expert? Ray Edwards. You guys suck. Who needs enemies with friends like you guys? You know what I'm saying? But you know, and I am actually all for a lot of the other stuff too. You know, the home builds, the 80% lowers. I think all those things are awesome. It's just, if you're going to do a SBR or suppressor or make yourself one, I mean, this is kind of what we're gearing this towards. This whole SIG brace thing is a cluster. I didn't really plan on getting into that tonight, but maybe we can do that off on another Google Hangout later or something like that. But is there anything else? There was actually something I was thinking about with the gun trust stuff. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Errors to kind of make sure if you're filing on a Form 1 to be aware of. We talked about multiple lines, so be aware of that. Don't vote multiple lines. In the beginning, if you're putting the information, it's going to give you a business name if you're a business name or a trust, and it's going to give you a trade name. Anything you put in a trade name is not going to show. You don't need to put anything in there. You need to put all the title and all the information correct, because if it doesn't match 100%, your form is going to be declined, and they don't look at it until the 30 days. So nobody actually looks at the freaking form until the day of the review. They either approve it or decline it. Yeah. And there's no way to get to anybody. Like when I got the multiple item, they emailed me, said disapproved because this and this and that. And well, you knew the fucking thing for how long, but didn't do anything, you know. So anyway, and I called these people, but again, you can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that.
Yeah. I had a form denied because I was filing for a 300 blackout, and under caliber I wrote .300 blackout, and they kicked it back to me, said disapprove. That's not what we're looking for. What they actually want is that it's a 30 caliber weapon, not that it's 300 blackout, which doesn't make any sense to me. But you know, they want to know the exact length of the rifle or of the barrel, but they don't care whether it's 300 blackout or 30-30 or what. They wanted me to write.
So you didn't put 7.62 by 35. You put.
No, you can't. You have to do it in inches, as far as I know. I take that back. You know, it's so confusing. I forget. But GunTrustLawyers.com, I think, has a walkthrough on their website of how to fill out the Form 1 on the e-file. There's also other references on AR-15 forum, AR-15.com forum, places like that. Just, you know, this is a big decision. If you're not willing to put in the work, then you're not going to get it done. So, you know, personally, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to give advice. But, like, I did all of this work myself. So people answered my questions for me, but I spent a lot of time researching. I spent a lot of time, you know, finding out these answers so that I would get it right. So I would tell you that this is going to take some effort. This is going to take some time, especially filling out these forms. So, yeah.
Did you guys know that Miller High Life makes a 40 in a plastic bottle? Actually, almost 32.
Couple other things, I guess. It's the length of the barrel, so go shorter than what you expect. If it's 7.5 and you're not sure, do 7. If it's shorter, it's better. That's on the paper, but then if you say 7.5 and you go 5, then it's an issue. So if you can go shorter, overall, go shorter as well than what.
Right. Actually, that's a good thing to mention. Is that. And I'm just going to phrase this because I know the answer again, but I'm going to phrase this as a question to you guys from someone who doesn't know. I'm a guy. I've got a trust. I filed a Form 1 for an SBR, 300 blackout. Put 10.5 inch. Maybe it's a 9 inch. Doesn't matter. Can I also, when I have that tax stamp for my 300 blackout in, say, a 10.5 inch barrel, can I also run a 5.56 upper on that SBR that's a different barrel length?
As far as I understand it, you are allowed to temporarily change the configuration, the key word being temporary. So if it requires a whole new receiver or alterations to the receiver to make it work, then that's not okay. If it's a temporary thing with strapping on a new upper with just a couple of push pins, then that's acceptable. As far as I know, that's what I've read. So you can change calibers from 300 to 5.56 because it uses the same receiver. You don't have to make any alterations to the receiver. You can't go, 300 or 5.56 to 308. That's a completely different receiver.
As long as if you're making the changes and you're going from 300 to 5.56, let's say, and you're going to permanently keep it at 5.56, you need to inform the NFA branch and send them a letter. There's a letter of form that you do. It doesn't cost you anything. Now, there's other debates, because I was reading through a form or an answer from the technology branch from 1998, a couple days ago. And it says if you in possession of multiple uppers, that short uppers, and you have multiple receivers that they're not attached, you might be taken with the intent of manufacturing a destructive device or a short barrel rifle, even though it's not attached. So they can still always look at the intent or not, but they said also that judge, if you go to court, the judge will be in your favor in case of the intent. If they haven't had physical proof, it will be in your case. But so there's two different theories to it if you have them, but technically if it's temporary, using a different upper, you're fine. If you're going to permanently change the caliber, you just need to inform them of the change.
Yeah.
Now, is there any additional costs? Are there any additional costs that are incurred if you have a 300 blackout SBR and let's say the fucking barrel gets worn out, or you decide, fuck man, this is way too expensive ammo for me to shoot. I should have gone with a 5.56. Do you have to pay the $200 stamp tax all over again, or a tax stamp all over again?
The stamp is to register the receiver of the firearm, not the barrel. Some people used to serialize their barrels and actually register the barrel, not the receiver. So that could be an issue, but I don't know if they even do that anymore. But as long as the receiver is still the same thing with a full auto receiver. You can put it anywhere. As long as it's registered, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you change it, you just need to inform them there's no cost to it.
Okay. Now, the other thing is, if you do need to be able to produce, like let's say for me, filed with a 10.5 inch upper, right? It actually turns out it's 9. So with a muzzle device that's pinned and welded, probably be okay. But if you were really far off, let's say you originally filed paperwork for a 7.5 and you're like, fuck, 7.5 was retarded because, that's just way too short. I'm losing ballistics. So you put a 10 inch on. You still kind of want to make sure you've got that 9 inch that you can slap on there, right? Because so you kind of are in that situation where it's like, do I go ahead and just build my...
Yeah, it would be a lot harder to say it was a temporary change if you no longer owned an upper that matched that.
Right. So you want to make sure you always have that in your possession, or...
That's the way I understand it. Again, all of this ATF stuff is open to interpretation, unfortunately. So you're going to get a lot of different answers. Just like if you ask a cop a question about the law, you're not always going to get the right answer, whether you ask the NFA branch, you ask a specific agent. So you kind of have to go based on case law, and which is what Shellshock was mentioning with that 1998 ruling about what your intent was by owning multiple short uppers with multiple lowers, that kind of stuff. So you are venturing into gray areas there. But I would say personally, for my own collection, I would say as long as I have that upper that I registered as far as the length goes, then I'm not going to worry about it as long as it's a temporary change.
And my understanding again, if you register your rifle as, let's say for this rifle, I said the barrel is 5.5, and they come and measure the barrel, and it's longer than what I have it registered, you're fine. It's a problem if it's shorter. So if you say 5.5 and it's a 4, then it's a problem. And I don't know how big of a problem is it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, if the barrel is temporary, like on an AK barrel, really hard to remove.
Yeah.
Is it really a big
Well,
problem?
I think what they do, from what I read and understand, is if in the situation where you're at the range and the ATF came and was like, let me see your tax stamp, and like, let's just make sure this is all copacetic, is they actually drop a dowel rod down the barrel
With the bolt closed.
with the bolt closed to measure that way, as opposed to like taking your handguard off and measuring it out that way. They actually just drop a wooden dowel or something like that down the barrel. But
That's
you
the
know,
same thing that did to cut those barrels is you measure it with a dowel with the bolt closed, measure, cut, and then that's kind of how you do it. But are they going to come in? I have never heard of an ATF agent going into a range and inspecting anything. I've heard police officers being an asshole and will stop you and will don't know anything about the law, will arrest you, will take the gun, and then we'll contact the NFA branch, or we'll keep you in the car and contact the NFA branch. But I've never heard of an ATF agent actually inspecting anything. But again,
I would agree.
I spoke with an ATF agent here, the local ATF agents, and my question was, again, I'm building an SBR. When I built the M92, it has or had the underfolder receiver on the rear, but there's no stock in there. And I asked them, and they said, no, it's fine. I asked another agent, said, no, it's a problem. I asked the third agent, I'm not sure. And those are, one of them was the agent that will come and inspect my business, will come and do the audits, right? Then I contacted the technology branch. Technology branch said, you know what? It looks like it's kosher as long as the receiver was never built as a rifle.
Yeah.
It's fine to build it as a pistol and then convert it when you get the stamp. And then they said, well, you have to submit in writing. I submitted that about 4 months ago. I've not heard anything back from them. And I've already understood it's a short barrel.
Why is it all true? Because these laws don't make any sense. They really don't make any sense. And so they don't, they don't know what they're doing. Because, it's all just, it's an interpretation. So, yeah. I would say if you were doing your best effort to follow the law, that's all you can do, really. That's what I would say.
okay. One other quick question from 504 Dirt. 504 Dirt. Yeah, I've been drinking all night. I can't even say 504.
What's up, 504 Dirt Dart?
David's awesome, man. His Friday fix is awesome. But he had a question.
I'm a fan.
Maybe it's more of a statement, but just for traveling over state lines, is it specific, date specific? Meaning,
yes. Yeah, it's whatever dates you put on your form that you give to the ATF, which is, I think, it's a 5320.2. I can't remember. If you Google ATF NFA item crossing state lines, you'll find the form. But you have to put down a range of dates where the item will be crossing state lines. Again, as far as I understand it, this is not for suppressors. This is only for firearms.
I don't understand it. It's the date, the place it's going to be, and who's you're going to be in possession of. So where is it going to, the firearm is going to be at, too. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can tell you right now where the firearm is and who has possession. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that out there right now.
Hey, Dirt Dart, I got a gun for your Friday fix. You better put me on the Friday fix.
Yeah, I better be on the Friday fix too, man.
Short barrel rifles. So Friday fix short barrel rifle.
Okay, I'm gonna have to log off because my battery's about to die, and I promised my son I was gonna watch a movie with him. So.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate your time. I think we're about pretty much through the end. If there's more questions, we can always address them again later. But I definitely appreciate your guys' time, and thanks for everyone who's in the channel, who's been watching and commenting and asking questions. It's been super awesome. I didn't even expect it to go quite this well because I didn't know how sober we would be. But All in all, it's been a pretty good, hopefully, learning experience for all of us as well as everyone out there. And if there's more questions, we'll take them, we'll table them, and then maybe we can just go ahead and do another live hangout. So,
yeah. And if you have expertise in this field, please let us know, because we're just going based off our experience. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I'll probably go ahead and shut this down. Looks like the Bombadero is out. I will go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and kill this hangout and save it and upload it to the channel, and then we can jump into another hangout with the guys, with the fellas, if you feel up to it, Shell Shock.
Just send me a link.
Brian McCown says, "Can we just repel the NFA?" I wish, man.
They'll probably repel it.
I know, right? I wish we could, dude. I'll be behind that charge. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down, and we'll take, like I said, we'll keep doing this as many times as we have to on this topic until we, can help as many people as we can, at least provide the resources, at least information, and all that fun stuff. So, is there any final thoughts there, Shell Shock?
Get them while you can, people.
Get them while you can, man.
Get them while you can.
Yeah, jump on that shit. Like, if you're watching this, like, go get your trust set up, like, ASAP. So.
Yeah. Send me a link.
Okay, sounds good, man. No biggie. Shutting it down. Thanks again. All right, I'll hit you up in a few, bro.